You didn't cry every day. You didn't fall apart in public. You kept going to work, kept smiling, kept answering messages like nothing happened. And yet, something was different. Something inside you had quietly shifted. And you didn't even notice when it began. People around you thought you were fine. Maybe you thought so too. But the truth is, what happened to you wasn't just heartbreak. Heartbreak fades. This didn't. This stayed. It moved into you like a quiet tenant, rearranging things, changing the lighting, making the rooms feel smaller than they used to be. This isn't a story about losing someone. This is a story about losing yourself. And slowly, painfully, finding your way back. Here's the thing about emotional damage. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with a clear moment, a single event you can point to and say, that's when it happened. It accumulates, slowly, quietly, over days, weeks, sometimes months, of small moments that each felt manageable on their own. Maybe it was the way you started second-guessing your own feelings, the way you'd feel something, hurt, confusion, disappointment, and then immediately ask yourself, am I overreacting? Maybe it was the way you started measuring your words more carefully, editing yourself before you even spoke, as if your own emotions needed approval before they were allowed to exist. That's not heartbreak. That's something deeper. That's emotional conditioning. And it happens so gradually that by the time you realize what's going on, it's already become part of how you function. Think back to who you were before all of this, not in a nostalgic, sentimental way, just honestly. What were you like? How freely did you speak? How much did you trust your own instincts? How open were you, not just with others, but with yourself? Because at some point, something changed. Not dramatically, not all at once. There was no single morning where you woke up and decided to become guarded, or hesitant, or emotionally distant. It happened through 1,000 tiny adjustments you made to survive what you were going through. You started swallowing feelings that used to come naturally. You started choosing silence over honesty because honesty had stopped feeling safe. You adjusted yourself, your reactions, your expectations, your sense of what you deserved, so that things would feel less painful. And each time you made that adjustment, you thought you were coping. You thought you were being mature, realistic, strong. But what you were actually doing was teaching yourself to make yourself smaller. And after a while, smaller started to feel like normal. There's a moment, and most people who've been through this know exactly what it feels like, where you catch a glimpse of yourself and don't quite recognize what you see. Not in the mirror, in your behavior, in your patterns, in the way you respond to the world around you. You notice that you overthink things you used to handle with ease. You notice that you hold back in moments where you used to be open. You notice that your default setting has shifted from trust to caution, from warmth to waiting, from connection to self-protection. And then it hits you, quietly but undeniably. You didn't just lose that person. You lost a version of yourself somewhere along the way. The version that didn't read into every silence. The version that didn't brace for impact every time someone got close. The version that felt genuinely and without hesitation that you were worthy of being loved without having to earn it. That's the real loss, not them. You. What makes this so hard to process is that it doesn't feel like damage at first. It feels like wisdom. It feels like growth. You tell yourself you're just being careful now, just protecting yourself, just being smart about who you let in. And in some ways, that's true. But there's a difference between healthy boundaries and emotional walls so high that nothing, not warmth, not connection, not even your own joy, can fully get through. At some point, the protection you built to keep pain out started keeping everything out, and you've been sitting on the inside of that wall, wondering why everything feels a little muted, a little distant, a little harder to access than it used to be. The realization isn't comfortable, but it is necessary, because you can't heal something you haven't named, and what happened to you has a name. It's called emotional damage, and it doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've been through something that left a mark, and marks, unlike wounds, can become part of you without defining you. Here's what nobody tells you about emotional damage. It travels. It doesn't stay in the relationship where it began. It follows you into the next conversation, the next connection, the next person who tries to reach you. You find yourself reacting to new people based on old pain, flinching at things that haven't even happened yet, preparing yourself for disappointments that exist only in your memory. Someone new shows you kindness, and part of you wonders what they want. Someone new shows you consistency, and part of you waits for it to stop. Someone new tells you they're there for you, and part of you quietly catalogs all the times that phrase meant nothing. That's not pessimism. That's not even distrust. Not really. That's your nervous system doing what it learned to do, keeping you safe from something that already happened. The problem is, it can't tell the difference between then and now. It can't distinguish between the person who hurt you and the people standing in front of you today, so it treats everyone like a potential threat. And that's exhausting and lonely, and it keeps you stuck in a loop that was never yours to be stuck in. Healing from this isn't a moment. It's not a conversation that fixes everything, or a realization that suddenly makes the weight disappear. It's slow, it's quiet, It's made up of very small, almost invisible decisions that you make day after day without any guarantee that they're working. It's the morning you notice you didn't immediately assume the worst. The evening you said something honest to someone without editing yourself first. The moment someone offered you something real, a kind word, a patient presence, a gentle question, and you let yourself receive it even just a little without immediately building a wall around it. That's what healing actually looks like. Not dramatic, not photogenic, not the kind of thing you can share in a caption. It's just you, slowly, quietly, learning to trust yourself again. Learning that your feelings are valid without needing confirmation. Learning that what happened to you shaped you, but it does not have to define you. Because here's what's true, even on the days it doesn't feel true, you are not the person you were before this happened. But that's not only a loss. Something has grown in you through all of this. An awareness you didn't have before. A depth. A kind of quiet strength that doesn't shout, doesn't perform, doesn't need to prove anything. You've learned things about yourself, what you're capable of carrying, what you're not willing to settle for, what it actually feels like when love is real versus when it's conditional. That knowledge cost you something. But it's yours now, and nobody can take it back. You're not going back to who you were. You're becoming someone more honest, more aware, more intentional. And that person, the one you're slowly becoming, deserves to take up space, deserves to be present, deserves to be fully, unapologetically here. So if you've been sitting with something that felt too complicated to call heartbreak, too quiet to explain, too deep to just get over, I hope this gave it a name. I hope this reminded you that what you went through was real, and what you're feeling now is valid, and where you're headed is possible. It wasn't just heartbreak. It was an education, a painful, unwanted, transformative education in what it means to feel deeply, to survive quietly, and to rebuild yourself from the inside out. And you're still here. That's not a small thing. That's everything. If this found you at the right moment, let me know in the comments. What part of this felt most real to you? And if someone in your life needs to hear this today, share it with them. Subscribe if you want more content that goes beneath the surface. I'll see you in the next one.